This is Indian Country Today.
Thank you for joining us. I'm Mark Trahant. Here are the headlines from Indian Country Today. Joe Biden became the 46th president, taking the helm of a deeply divided nation and inheriting a confluence of crises, arguably greater than any faced by his predecessors.
Preserve, protect, and defend.
Preserve, protect, and defend.
The Constitution of the United States.
The Constitution of the United States.
So help you God.
So help me God.
Congratulations, Mr. President.
The new administration begins at a U.S. Capitol battered by an insurrectionist siege just 2 weeks ago, encircled by security forces evocative of those in a war zone, and devoid of crowds because of the threat of the coronavirus pandemic. Stay home, Americans were told, to prevent further spread of a surging virus that has claimed more than 400,000 lives in the United States. Biden looks out at a capital city dotted with empty storefronts that attest to the pandemic's deep economic toll, and where summer protests laid bare the nation's renewed reckoning on racial injustice. And he was not applauded by his predecessor. Flouting tradition, Donald Trump departed Washington Wednesday morning ahead of the inauguration rather than accompany his successor to the Capitol. Though 3 other former presidents, Bill Clinton, George W. Bush, and Barack Obama, gathered to watch the ceremonial transfer of power, Trump, awaiting his second impeachment trial, instead flew to Florida after stoking grievance among his supporters with the lie that Biden's win was illegitimate. The back and forth about drilling in the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge was a demonstration in the shift in White House policies. On Donald Trump's last day in office, he signed an order to drill for oil in the region. However, one provision, permission to use federal land, still required approval from the Bureau of Land Management, and the Biden administration was having none of that. The Biden administration wasted no time resolving the issue. One of 17 executive orders reversed support for Arctic development as well as permits for the Keystone XL pipeline. The administration also said it would rejoin the Paris Climate Agreement and the World Health Organization. From Alaska, the Gwich'in Steering Committee President, Bernadette Diminutif, thanked the new president for those actions, saying, Masichu, President Biden, the Gwich'in Nation is grateful to the president for his commitment to protecting sacred lands and the Gwich'in way of life. She said indigenous communities have worked hard to protect the lands and the porcupine caribou herd. The past 4 years under Donald Trump have been unconventional, something he himself said as he was leaving Washington. But one presidential tradition continues. The White House says the former president left behind a note for his successor, Joe Biden. Deputy Press Secretary Judd Deere declined to reveal what Trump wrote or to characterize the note, citing privacy for communication between presidents. Trump left the White House for the final time as president on Wednesday morning, saying it's been a great honor, the honor of a lifetime. Montana tribes are participating in a national moment of unity and memorial for COVID-19 victims by illuminating a teepee on Sacrifice Cliff in Billings. The teepee itself is being lit up for one evening. According to the Great Falls Tribune, the Rocky Mountain Tribal Leaders Council, the Coshada Tribe of Louisiana, Global Indigenous Council, and the International Romani Union are all participating in the event, along with the Pretty Shield Foundation. It's part of a national memorial that kicked off in Washington, D.C. as part of Joe Biden's inauguration. It will feature the lighting of the Lincoln Memorial Reflecting Pool and the illumination of buildings in cities nationwide. The ceremony is honoring those lost to COVID-19 while serving as a symbol of hope for the future. California tribes taking action on climate change are getting a boost from a new state program designed to support tribally led efforts. Nearly $2 million is being awarded to the Tribal Government Challenge Planning Grant Program. The program will support projects that identify solutions to reduce pollution and advance climate resiliency on tribal lands and in tribal communities. Funded by the California Energy Commission, the program focuses on the unique needs of tribal governments and the valuable ongoing role tribes serve in helping the state achieve its climate goals. The grants range from $215,000 to $250,000 and support planning for projects like energy storage, renewables, biomass, and community and energy resilience to climate impacts. Some of the 10 tribes include the Karak, the Pitt River Tribe, as well as the San Pasqual Band of Mission Indians. And those are the headlines from Indian Country today. I'm Mark Trahant. When we come back, we'll talk with two tribal chairmen who are among the last tribal leaders to meet with Joe Biden before he took office. What was that meeting like, and what do they see coming from a Biden administration? We'll be right back. Now that Joe Biden is our 46th president, what will his administration do that will positively impact tribes? In October, he traveled to Phoenix, Arizona, where he met with tribal leaders and discussed his plans for Indian Country. What's in his plan? What's not? Since then, he's tapped Representative Deb Haaland to be the next Secretary of the Interior. She is Laguna Pueblo, and once confirmed, she will be the first Native American to head this department that oversees more than 500 federally recognized tribes and millions of acres in public lands. Biden has also said he is going to restart the Tribal Nations Summit at the White House to hear from tribal leaders directly. This, of course, was started when Biden was vice president to Barack Obama. Joining us today is Timothy Nuvamyamwa, the chairman of the Hopi tribe. Welcome, Mr. Chairman.
Good morning.
Also joining us is Terry Rambler, the chairman of the San Carlos Apache Nation. Welcome, Mr. Chairman.
Good morning.
Since you were both at that meeting with Joe Biden and Kamala Harris at the Heard Museum, we want to hear more about their plan for Indian Country. What was kind of the landscape? Start with you, Chairman Rambler.
There was 5 of us there, and it was very historic. We met with them, and each of us had about 10 minutes or so to talk, but they had us put on these extra masks, so we had to kind of shout it out. But I did let them know, I did let both Biden and Harris know that the protection of sacred sites was very important to us and other tribes. The response to COVID-19, working together rather than in isolation, was important to us. And the additional funding that we needed for the CARES Act was important to us. And also his plan on renewable energy, which I think for the most part rings true, and it's good news for Indian Country.
You had to shout questions. What kind of questions were you asking?
I was asking him about our issue that we had here in Arizona about the Resolution copper mine, where they're going to be block caving and destroying a sacred site of not only Apaches, but other tribes. There's about 10 tribes that are affected in that area. And that's only 14 straight miles from where we live. And not only would it destroy an area that's sacred to us, but ties into our religion, but it will also affect the water resources in that area, and also leave behind a waste dump, the most waste dump that the United States will have ever seen in its history.
The Biden administration has wasted no time in jumping on both the Keystone XL pipeline issue and the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge. Does that give you hope that on some of these other issues they'll be moving very quickly?
Yes, we've been prepping them on this, both his transition team, and I put in a request to meet with him so I could speak to him directly on this issue, and because the other side that they're pushing is jobs. Well, what I'm hoping for is that we stop this mine and we replace it with renewable energy jobs.
What do you think the process will be for it to happen, since the Trump administration ran to try to sign all the title away before this government took office?
Yes, they have not signed the final piece of document, the environmental impact statement. Once they sign off on that, then there's 60 days to exchange the land from public land to private property. But Tonto National Forest has informed us that they're going to hold off on approving the EIS for about 55 more days, I believe. And in the meantime, that gives us hope that the Biden administration can come in and make them do additional supplemental EIS, because the one they did is really very flawed in addition to all the other studies that they have done over the years. And so in the meantime, we have Senator Bernie Sanders that had introduced the Save Oak Flat Act in the Senate, and Congressman Grijalba, same in the United States House of Representatives. And we're hoping that they can reintroduce those acts and repeal that section of the National Defense Authorization Act that's very harmful to us here in Arizona.
Well, and I think most viewers don't remember how that unfolded, where it was just inserted basically at midnight. And now there's kind of the freshness of day to get the work untangled.
Yes, the very sad thing about this, that there was no public determination from us, other tribes, and the state of Arizona, and the United States as a whole too, because it was just done while everybody was sleeping.
Let me shift gears. Congress is moving fast to do more coronavirus relief, and already there's another $20 billion that's set for tribes. What's still required? What kind of help do you still need from the federal government to manage the coronavirus pandemic?
The first funding that we got for tribal government, which is really very important, because this pandemic has affected our revenues, and we've had to decrease budgets, or we're on limited services. And as it is right now, we get a good share of our budget, our annual budget from the federal government, based on trust responsibility. And we put that to good use. We turn our casino hotel into an alternative care site, where we place our people that have tested positive to quarantine and isolate them so that they don't spread it further. We've really ramped up our contact tracing efforts, hiring additional people. And we've installed checkpoints to check the people that come into our lands, and we did curfews and additional security sources that are needed. And we've developed our emergency response commission team that expanded their manpower and resources. So all that taken together has really added a lot. And without the CARES Act, we would have been able to do that, because like right now, I think today we're at like 70 or so active cases. On November 30, we were at 330. That was our highest. So we brought it down, working together like this. And what we really need is leadership from Washington, D.C., so that we can all work together to address the pandemic, and then we can then address the economy.
Chairman Nuvayama, you just had your second shot of the vaccine today at a time when the virus is flaring up again. How soon will you have your tribal citizens who live on Hopi lands vaccinated?
Thank you for that question. Yes, I did. I was fortunate to get that second dose of the Moderna vaccine, and it's an aggressive effort out here on Hopi, coordinating with our Hopi Healthcare Center with IHS. We've been aggressively, trying to get some of the essentials. So we've taken care of a large part of the 1A group, which is our first responders, healthcare personnel, those that are engaged with providing assistance to our local community. With that approach, I just received notice while being here that an additional amount of vaccines have been provided to the Hopi Healthcare Center to continue administering those to some of our essential personnel. And with the surge vaccination rollout, we're hoping that we can extend this further to that over 65 age group. And we're hoping we can start touching with some of those with underlying conditions within the community at a different age group. So it's been a coordinated effort. It hasn't gone without its minor hiccups, but being able to adjust and put solutions in place to overcome those has been something that we've been successful with. And again, that's coordination with the Hopi Tribal Government, our Hopi Emergency Response Team, and primarily with the Hopi Healthcare Center out here on Hopi, our IHS service unit for our community. So strongly looking at continuing with that approach.
What resources do you think would be helpful coming from Washington?
Well, I think what we need from Congress is to really take that strong approach to really push forward this package that the new administration is putting together right now. there are some dire needs. Everything that we've done here to respond to the COVID-19 has come with a price tag. And I know my sister nations are also familiar with that price tag. And, so we're hoping we get some of that additional relief coming forward because, we do need to extend those services out. I don't see their closure, but the vaccines definitely offer some hope. But we do need additional dollars to continue operating at a level and beyond that we really need to be at in order to mitigate the virus itself.
One of the things I wonder about in tribal communities is how many other healthcare needs have been put off while you wait for this pandemic to recede. And you talk about a price. I wonder how that's going to get dealt with.
Yeah, so out here on Hopi, we have a service unit that does outside referrals to other local hospitals within the state. So, with some of those referrals, I know that comes with a price tag as well. So I know, and speaking for our healthcare center, they haven't deviated from some of those emergency needs that the community still has, just with, I imagine, any other community out there with other emergency situations. But COVID has definitely reached a point of something we've never seen out here before. But to handle and address all those, it's just a testament to the passion and that commitment to serving, not only the Hopi community, but the healthcare workers out there servicing their communities in general. Just my hat's off to that, but it's continued efforts here that we still need to move forward with.
As we bring this to a close, I want to ask you both, what do you think, what does it mean to have Deborah Haaland become the next Secretary of the Interior? What does that mean to the future, both for the tribal government and for young people?
Yes, we very much support Deb Haaland for Interior Secretary, because one thing I've learned as a tribal leader is that when you're sitting across a desk or whatever, talking to other leaders that represent the federal government and managing our resources such as water, land, and air, and other natural resources, is that a lot of times there's a lack of understanding on the other part. So to have somebody like Deb in there, and also to have more people, more tribal members from all tribes in these real critical positions, especially over the stewardship of our natural resources, it's very important to have, because then it becomes more meaningful. Then people are understanding what we're trying to say. And so that's why she's so important, just like today, how important our vice president-elect is to not only people of color, but females across the United States. And that's how powerful they both are. And they're real big motivators for our people.
Yeah, we're extremely encouraged with Congresswoman Haaland, soon to be, and I say this with great pride, our Director of the Interior. So I know from my experience with Congresswoman Haaland that, even though she represents the state of New Mexico in her district, she hasn't shied away from understanding and being able to support tribes from other states. We definitely reached out to her and expressed some of our concerns. And it's important that we have somebody at that level who understands Native tribes and some of the issues that we deal with. I just think there's a huge lack of education at the national level on Native tribes. Although we've been here for time immemorial, I just don't think any administration has taken the time to truly understand and educate themselves on how unique tribal lands and tribes are. So I think she brings a refreshing component to something that we've been looking after for quite some time. And it is a testament to the Biden-Harris administration that they are listening. And to appoint somebody at that level and a Native American woman is extremely encouraging. And it's something that we fully support, and we're excited about engaging with her, just I imagine as many other tribes are, to begin bringing some attention to some of these disparities, long-standing inequities and inequalities for Native country.
Thank you so much, both of you, for joining us today on this day, the inauguration of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. Thank you, Chairman Rambler.
All right, thank you very much. Appreciate today.
And thank you, Chairman Nuvanyuma.
Thank you for having us on. I always appreciate the opportunity to be a part of Indian Country Today.
One big issue that Indian Country will be watching is how President Biden handles the Keystone XL pipeline. When we come back, we'll look at his campaign promise. When President Biden was on the campaign trail, he promised one of the first things he would do as president would be to cancel the Keystone XL pipeline. Marionette Pember is our national correspondent, and her recent story, Canceling Pipelines Present Challenges, took a look at that campaign promise as well as other pipelines. Welcome, Marionette.
Hi, Mark. Good to be here.
So 17 executive orders, including Keystone XL pipeline. It's off to a quick start.
Yes, it certainly is. And of course, the other folks opposing other pipelines, such as Dakota Access Pipeline and Enbridge's Line 3, which is part of their mainline pipelines, they're anxious that new President Biden might also render a similar decision as he had in the Keystone pipeline. For these pipelines they're opposing, but it's really unclear if that's going to happen or, if it would in the future.
Well, I don't know. One of the things that I was really struck by this administration is it's saying it's using climate change as a framework. And if you read the UN report on climate change, one of the big items is being careful about infrastructure projects that cause permanent use of fossil fuels. And pipelines basically do that.
Yeah, they do. But, pipelines have, these companies have such a really imaginative sort of control over how the permitting process works and the guidelines that govern them, particularly projects that are already, underway. For instance, the Enbridge's Line 3 pipeline is really, they're framing it as a replacement pipeline. So they have their presidential permit they're based in Canada, crossing over into the United States. That was actually granted in the 60s and was kind of grandfathered in. So, and they are being very careful to build that pipeline exactly in the place that they had the permit for in 1960. So it's a little bit, it would require more work, more legal elements, I think, for President Biden to rescind that work. I guess it would mean potentially there is a lawsuit in federal court right now, basically saying the Army Corps of Engineers has not done their due diligence in looking at the impact upon water. So I guess he could, at the very least, really instruct the Army Corps of Engineers to do a broader and more thorough EIS study.
Well, and one other way that might be open to additional restrictions is just by adding tribal consultation to the mix, because the Trump administration did not spend a lot of time on that.
Yeah, Enbridge, though, has been very, very skillful at leveraging the support from tribes, and they spread a lot of money around. They actually end up appealing quite a bit to these rural communities who may not have a very big tax base. So they have a lot of approval and support, and particularly from the unions. And as you may recall, President Biden during his campaign really became pretty closely allied with unions and made a lot of promises. So there, even though it really in the great big picture of everything, it's not that many jobs. I think it's they are a powerful lobby. So that's going to be I predict that will be somewhat difficult for him.
Although unions really were upset with the Keystone XL decision. So, I mean, they were the first press release out. So kind of the tensions are already building on that.
Yeah, very much so. And Keystone is trying to, of course, as you know, that project, I think, began, like at least in 2016, and the Defense Now's, it's quite a different project than it was when it was originally proposed, and it's much more sort of impact friendly as far as environmental impact. So I don't know what to say. I think it will certainly be an interesting time, and I think he will be under a lot of pressure from multiple sides, from fossil fuel industry folks, from unions, and certainly from environmentalists and from tribes.
We only have about a minute left, but I'm struck by how just not that long ago, banks were seen as the enemy, and now banks are saying, we're not going to finance some of these projects. Could that be a factor in this pipeline dispute?
It could be, certainly could be. I'm afraid I can't really speak specifically to that question, but certainly it has been in the news.
Thank you, Marionette. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Mark.
And that's a slice of our Indigenous world today. Thank you for watching. We'll be back with another edition tomorrow. I'm Mark Trahant.
Indian Country Today is recorded at the Phoenix Indian School Visitor Center in Phoenix, Arizona.
This is Indian Country Today.